The trial and execution of Mother and Mary Sutton for the crime of witchcraft. Witches apprehended, examined, and executed for notable villainies by them committed both by land and water. This pamphlet was distributed after the execution of the Suttons. We can see a woman being dunked in a river with a mill, horses running, and a black hog. But why are these significant, and what do they tell the reader? Like most primary sources, pamphlets like this can be misrepresentative, but they were a common source of communicating with the illiterate masses, which makes this a very important piece to be analyzed, especially as this particular pamphlet appears to be backed up by the written primary source of the accusations and trial of Mother and Mary Sutton. In Europe, during the 16th and 17th centuries, between 100 and 200,000 people were officially tried for witchcraft, and between 40 and 60,000 of these people were executed. These people were thought to have made a pact with the devil, resulting in them doing the devil's bidding. Most accused witches, 80%, were women, as the idea of them being dependent agents of the devil fit with the idea of proper gender roles. Witches would be accused of spoiling food, raising a storm, making children ill, killing animals, and other types of harm. Often, accusations came from tensions with their family or a neighbor. This would be the case for Mother and Mary Sutton. Mother Sutton was an elderly widow who had lived in Milton, Bedford, for a long time. She invited her unmarried daughter, Mary, and Mary's bastard son to come help her tend the hogs that she raised for a living. A woman living without a man was suspect to the neighbors, so the two women living by themselves were automatically at a risk of accusations. It was thought at the time that women are frailer than man is, so is it easier to be entrapped in these gross snares of the devil. Women were also more likely to be accused, as their domains had more unexplained problems. Animals they were raising and people they were nursing could die for seemingly no reason. The Suttons tended hogs, and after Mother Sutton had a falling out with their Lord Anger, he began to have problems with his horses. They would hurt themselves in their stables or run wild when carting goods. He claimed to see the Sutton hogs whenever these events occurred, and accused the Suttons of using these animals as a familiar to inflict harm on him. After this initial event, Mary Sutton was accused of spelling Lord Anger's servant into a trance, and both Mother and Mary were accused of killing Lord Anger's son, as revenge for the child having bullied Mary's son. These actions fit with the accepted profile of a witch being enticed either for the desire of revenge or of worldly riches. Their whole practices are either to hurt men and their guides or what they possess. Following these accusations, those who knew Mother Sutton thought back over the years and augmented the current charges with a list of things she had done in the past, as was common in witch trials. They decided that she caused the miscarriages and illnesses in the hogs that she had tended, when before she had been commended for her dutiful care of the animals. These accusations led to the Suttons being tried as witches. Witch trials were often quick. A notably long trial is recorded as being 5 hours for 3 witches, and consisted of listening to accusations, floating the witch, looking for a witch's mark, and pricking the witch to see if they felt pain. All but the last method was used in the Sutton trial. Accused witches would be floated in water, as it was thought that witches would not float as God would not allow them to be submerged in an act similar to baptism. Another common test was to search the accused for a witch's mark, as it was thought that those who were in diabolic contact would form a mark, like a mole, wart, or pimple. These marks were thought to be found most commonly near the witch's genitalia, suggesting sexual contact. In the Sutton trial, Mary was first floated, sinking 2 feet and floating back to the surface. After this result, she was searched by a group of local women, who claimed to have found a teat on her upper thigh. This meant that she was floated again, and this time she is said to have spun on the surface of the water without sinking, no matter how men pulled on the ropes attached to her waist. After this unfortunate result, her son testified that he had seen his mother and grandmother convening with spirits about how they would kill the Lord's son. At this point, both women confessed to being witches and were condemned to death, as this was the law for witches in England. They were hung on the 31st of March, 1613. Now knowing the case of the Sutton witches, we can better understand the message of this pamphlet. Mary Sutton is seen at her trial being floated, proving that she is a witch. Her familiar, the Black Hog, watches the events from the shore, and the horses that she and her mother had crazed, the initial accusation, are seen running in the background. This pamphlet tells the most important features of the event to onlookers, even if they are illiterate. These women were killed for being witches. However, when looking at the events that got them killed, it seems more likely that they were killed for being suspiciously single women who could be blamed for unexplained unfortunate events. Wild hogs could have spooked the horse. There is mention of a bug landing on the servant who had the trance, which could have potentially caused an allergic reaction. Childhood mortality rates were very high, and Mary may have instructed her son to testify against them if they were certain to be condemned, to protect himself from association with witches. This shows how the witchcraft epidemic was used to explain the unexplainable, and was blamed on women.